Hello, and welcome to day 3 of 7 days, 7 sewing tutorials. I am doing this series right now where for 7 days, each day I'm uploading a sewing tutorial. Day 1, I showed you how to make a tube top from your own measurements. Yesterday, I showed you how to make the Alicia blouse. It's one of my sewing patterns, and usually the front is double lined, but in this tutorial I'm showing you how to only make it single lined. This way you save some fabric, and also I just wanted to show you how to use bias tape, talk to you about bias tape, how to make your own bias tape, and all of that, so you can find that in yesterday's tutorial. And today I'm going to show you how to make a pair of panties. Mine kind of look like grandma underwear, but in a cute way. So I posted a photo of when I made them. I don't even remember when I made them, maybe half a year ago, maybe even longer ago. And back then already so many of you asked for a tutorial. And now when I told you that I'm doing the series, so many of you asked if I can include a tutorial for it. So that's what I'm doing today. The only thing is, it's a little bit hard with the sewing pattern. There's 2 options that you have. Option number 1, you just take a pair of your underwear that you already have, or what I did, I used a bikini at the beginning as like my pattern, like to outline a rough sewing pattern. Or what I've decided to do is I'm going to link it down below. You can download the sewing pattern that I'm using. It's in my size, like it's in a size small, medium. It depends a bit later on how tight you pull the elastic because we have to sew in some elastic, and it depends how tight you pull the elastic when you sew it in, how small they will be. The thing is, if I would grade the sewing pattern for different sizes, number 1, I don't have any experience with making underwear, to be honest. I don't feel very comfortable selling a sewing pattern for underwear. And then also it's super time intensive. But I thought I would still share with you my sewing pattern for myself, just so you have an idea and a visual of what I was using, and then maybe you can adjust it so it fits you and it looks the way you want it to look. So it's going to be linked down below, and then you can just download it. I want my back, for example, to be pretty covered up, and I also want mine to be sitting pretty high-waisted. I can probably imagine that everyone wants a different fit, wants a different design, different style. So maybe what I would suggest you, it took me so many tries to get this right. So if you're making this for the first time, chances are high that it's maybe not going to turn out the way you want it to turn out, but that's totally okay. It happens to me all the time that I have to make things 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times till I get them the way I want them to look. So don't be too hard on yourself. And the good thing is you don't need a lot of fabric. You only need to cut out each of the sewing pattern pieces one time on fold. And you will have, I have so much fabric here, but even if you buy half a meter, you can still make quite a few pairs of underwear. I'm going to be using this pointelle cotton jersey, which is so beautiful. And I'm also going to show you how we can make a letters hem, and then we need to sew in some elastic. So this is the elastic that I'm using. It is, I think, half a centimeter. No, it's 0.7 centimeters wide, so 7 millimeters. And it is super stretchy. Later, we need to sew in the elastic on the inside. And then while we sew the elastic in, we're going to stretch it. And then it scrunches the fabric together. And this is also one of the things, when you later sew it, first, we're going to sew the elastic for the top, and maybe it's not going to fit the way you want it to fit. Maybe you didn't pull the elastic enough, maybe not enough. So after sewing it for the first time, just try it on and see how it fits. Maybe you have to unpick it a little bit again. But as I said, this is a super quick sewing project. So if you mess up the first time, don't worry about it. What else? That's it. I'm going to be using this fabric. You need elastic. The sewing pattern is linked for you down below, or you can just use a bikini or a pair of underwear that you want to copy and quickly create your own sewing pattern. And now we can start cutting out the fabric, and then we start sewing. So let's go. This is the fabric that I will be using. Here you can see this is the good side, and this side looks a little bit different. This is the bad side, and it is super stretchy, especially across the width. So what we want to do is, first we fold it in half, place the sewing pattern on it, And here, this is the length, this is the width. You want the sewing pattern. I should actually add the grain line to this here. You want that it's super stretchy this way. So here we have the back, and this is the bad side, this is the good side. I want to have the good side facing me. And then I take the front, and now I want the two good sides to face each other. And first I'm going to sew this together here. Then I'm going to sew this down here together. And then the other side. And now this is a pair that I did earlier. We need to make a letters hem, and this will then ruffle the fabric super nicely. It's gonna look nicer at the top, like the top is gonna ruffle together more with the letters hem, just because the fabric is much more stretchy this way. And then at the front and the back, the fabric doesn't stretch as much. So just be prepared that the front is gonna look much more like a proper letters hem, but later when we sew in the elastic, this is gonna scrunch the fabric together as well, the fabric, so it's gonna look more like a letters hem later on. But yeah, first we do the letters hem, and to do that, to make the letters hem, I'm gonna change my settings of my sewing machine to a zigzag stitch, and then I'm gonna change the stitch length to 1.5. And now it's important, I'm going to start at the back, at the top. It's important that one of the zigzag stitches goes into the fabric and the other stitch goes basically into nothing. And while you sew, you want to stretch your fabric. And at the beginning, I'm going to front and back stitch, and then I go all the way around. And then when I come to where I just cut off the thread, I'm just gonna sew over it twice to make sure the stitching here is not coming undone again. Now I'm going to do exactly the same for the leg holes. I'm going to start at the back again, and you want to stretch the fabric again, but even though like it won't stretch as much as the top, but just keep going and trust the process. So now that we have done the letters hem at the two leg holes and at the top, as you can see, they look quite big, especially because the fabric is super stretchy. They would be way too big for me now, which is good. You want them to be too big now, because now it's time to sew in your elastic. We're gonna sew in the elastic at the top and at the two leg holes on the inside. And while you sew the elastic, we're also gonna do it with a zigzag stitch. You're gonna stretch the elastic and then it's gonna gather the fabric together. Here, I would just suggest you give it a go. Don't pull the fabric too, like all the way, just a little bit, so it scrunches the fabric together a little bit. Maybe if you would pull it super strong, then maybe it would get too tight in the end. This is, here you just have to give it a go, see how it fits, and then maybe you're lucky and it fits the first try, or maybe you have to do a little bit of unpicking and do it again. Maybe I'll also have to do a little bit of unpicking and do it again. I'll let you know, I'll show you how to do it. Usually when I sew an elastic, I would now cut off the end, sew the two ends together and then sew it in. But this time I'm just gonna place this one end onto the fabric where I wanna start. And then when I get back to where I've started, I'm gonna overlap the two elastics, finish my zigzagging, and then I'll cut off the elastic. I'll show you how to do it or how I do it in a second. And let's start. Hopefully it goes well. So here again, this is what the inside is gonna look like. You want to put the elastic below the letters hem, and then the outside is gonna look like this. So this is what it was before, but because then we will stretch the elastic, it's gonna scrunch together, and you wanna do it right below, next to the letters hem. I'm gonna adjust my stitch length now, to 3. I will first start at the top and I'll start at the back again. First I do a few stitches where I don't pull the elastic, and also it doesn't need to be a super straight line. Like if you get a bit wobbly, it's totally okay, because with the letters hem and everything being scrunched together, it's gonna look a bit wobbly anyways. So first I'm gonna start sewing, front and back stitch, and then I'll start pulling on my elastic. And now we're getting back to where we started, so I'm gonna overlap the elastics. Now I do front and back stitching again. And now I will cut the elastic off, and it's gonna look like this. Okay, so this is what it looks like now. As you can see, it's already a lot smaller here at the top, and it looks so cute. I think it's so nice. So I would suggest you now to try it on to see how it fits. Maybe you pulled the elastic too tight and now it's too tight, or maybe you didn't pull enough and it's a little bit too big. So just try it on. If it doesn't fit nicely, just unpick with your seam opener the zigzag stitch again and then do it again. And now we need to do the same for the leg holes. For the leg holes, I would suggest you to pull the elastic a bit less than you did for the top. So let's go, let's do it. Okay, so mine are finished now. I just tried them on. Fits really nicely, super comfortable. Here they are, my little granny underwear. What I'm gonna do now is I found one of those bows. I bought them a while ago and I'm so happy I didn't lose them in my chaos. I'm gonna sew one onto, where's the front? Here's the front. I'm gonna sew it right here in the middle. I think that's gonna look so cute. I'm gonna do that by hand. I don't like sewing by hand. First I need to find the middle, so I'm just gonna fold it in half like this. And then I'm gonna pin a little pin in here, just so I know where the middle is. And then I need to decide if I want it to be a bit higher up. Let me actually flip the camera. Either I could have it here or a little bit higher. I think maybe I'll do it around here. And then I just take some sewing thread. Don't judge me how I do this. I just don't have any experience. I never do it. I try to avoid it as much as possible. Maybe the best way. What would be the best way? Last time I did it with my sewing machine and just stitched in one spot for a little bit. But that didn't look very nice. So let's try it like this. Okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to somehow make sure that this is not falling off again. Maybe I'm just gonna cut this out because this is not how it should be done. I'm pretty sure. Oh my god, that's not... And that's it for today's sewing tutorial. I hope you were able to follow along. I wish I could have explained to you a little bit better how to make the sewing pattern for it, but obviously I think like when I made them for the first time, I had to just try it out a few times because everyone also like enjoys a different fit. Like they're really high-waisted, they're really big. So yeah, if you want to, you can just download my sewing pattern and then maybe adjust it a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, more high-waisted, less high-waisted, completely up to you. And then by sewing in the elastic, you kind of determine how tight you want them to sit. But yeah, I hope you still enjoyed this. I hope you were able to also make your own pair now, and I hope I see you tomorrow again. Goodbye.